My Inner Knowing, empowering you to find your compass for the journey. We are dedicated to supporting you to rediscover and trust your natural ability to navigate life each day by sharing insight and experience through the lens of two professional communicators and their guests. We intend to prompt internal inquiry that supports all those willing to explore a unique path.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Good morning, Ellie. How are you?
I am very good. And how are you?
Good.
We're doing
good.
great.
Yeah. It's a nice, beautiful fall morning here in Missouri.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Us as well in Canada. We're lucky still to have that kind of weather. Snow will be coming soon, but it's okay.
Well, we will dive right in. Ellie, when you, at this point in your life, right? When you think about your inner knowing, how do you experience it now at this point in your life, even compared to a year ago or 5 years ago?
Yeah, that's a really great question, actually, because a year ago, I feel like I wasn't even the same person. It's amazing how I see my inner knowing as we are always a different version of ourselves, and it seems as though there's no timing with the inner knowing, with the inner being. I call it the inner being as well. um but it seems like time is never there, and so we're always changing. Like, I feel like I'm changing pretty much every day, to be honest with you. I think we were just having a conversation that I'm a very spontaneous person. I didn't used to be that way. But life made it so that I had to surrender a lot to my life in the past couple of years, that I needed to learn how to be a spontaneous person, in a sense, living one day at a time. Even like I feel it's funny because some people will say, well, aren't you young to kind of like think that way? A lot of people that are much older than me are going to be like, I live my life now one day at a time because I've done so much in my life and I'm retired or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I have an old soul, so I've come to the point in my life where I feel like it is very literally like I'm learning to live one day at a time. It's
Yeah.
crazy, and there's not one day that's the same. I don't feel it's always different. Um, but yeah, my inner knowing, I would relate to it very much so as my inner being, in the sense where I get to know who I am as well on a deeper level every single day. And sometimes you feel like you think you know yourself, but then you have no idea really, because like I said, it changes so much. And when you're open to it, I feel like it's even more evident, right? And so you're allowing your life to show you how to adapt to the new energy that you might have the next day. And so you can't know. So funny enough, I don't always know my inner knowing in that sense. It's always a new version of myself. And yeah, I think I kind of like how I see myself right now. And yes, it has changed from a year ago for sure, because a year ago I would say I was a lot more lost, in the sense where I was going through a new kind of level of awareness, and I needed to die from an old version again of myself. So it was a new layer. And it was just showing me that I needed to surrender to my life at a deeper level. So, and through a different kind of emotional state as well, where it's less in fear, but it's like kind of finding the inner peace. So now I feel, a year later, and after writing my book, that I'm always striving to just allow more inner peace inside of me, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. When you think about the things that prompted the shift for you, what comes to mind? What brought about you even considering choosing something different?
A lot of emotional pain throughout the years. It makes you go into places where you certainly never thought that you would ever go into. I do believe that I have gone through depression, and a lot of loneliness, and just knowing at a deep level that I was so different and living in this world that I'm trying to fit in, but I can't because it's just not my world, in the sense where it's a lot of accepting of, just, yeah, dying of old concepts. And so for me, yeah, I needed to surrender a lot, and that took a couple of years, and it wasn't one shot. So the shifts were kind of subtle.
Mhm.
They were still very obvious at one point, because then I've had enough releases inside of me that I could actually, like I said, feel something deeper now that brought me to inner peace. But I do believe that my journey has been, as much as it seems as though it's like in short amount of years, I feel like it's always been like I'm someone who adapts, and I need time to adapt. So I've always had a slow paced life. So yes, there's been some events in my life that made it that there was a definite big shift, but I mean that was maybe 6 years ago at my separation. When I got separated, I was with someone for 12 years, since the age of 19 until 30. And I basically lost everything. Lost my marriage, lost my two dogs, needed to give my two dogs away for survival kind of question of just doing something with my life, in the sense where I lost my business as well. So everything was just fell when I was 30. So that was a really big shift into, like, I got, like, it was a shock more than a shift.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it brought me to my knees for the first time in my life, I would say. Yeah, and
Yeah.
in a very discomfort, but it brought me the biggest gift, really, because now I know how to be alone with myself.
Mm.
I've learned to build resilience big
Yeah.
time. Um, I've learned that I am super strong mentally,
Mm. Yeah.
and learn how to just accept a completely, different life from a lot of people, and be okay with it. But again, like, there's been shifts along the way. They've not all been really, really obvious, but yeah, I would say that was a really big shift back then for me to mature in a different way. And then it came to just adapting to the new realities that I was creating throughout the years, with a lot of releases. And so it came with releases. The more that I released, the more that I was able, or the more that I was, I would say, allowing for myself to go really, really deep into my spirituality and my emotional healing, the more that I was developing this resilience to life, and really getting, like, to be the witness of my life instead of taking everything so personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a journey of its own. Of course, I'm not mastering it still today. I would love to.
Always
Yeah.
working
Yeah,
on it. Yeah.
always working on it. But yeah, I would say that those have been the shifts within the years, and just yeah, getting to a point where I am taking less things personal in my life, and always reaching for that inner peace, and seeing that that inner peace is really freedom, and it's a lot more
Mhm.
important than anything that's outside of myself. But yeah.
Yeah.
How do you define inner peace? How do you know when you're there?
Inner peace to me is when I'm in the complete unknown, and I'm not trying to control anything. And I'm like,
Mm.
"Oh, okay, that's
Mm.
awesome." That's, to me, that's freedom, and that's my inner peace, because I do have this ego, like everybody has their egos, and, the ego is always trying to control everything and plan everything and want everything to be perfect, or else
Mhm.
you're gonna die, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had that strong for a long time, because I was, I was adapting. I was alone for the first time in my life when I was
Mm.
tiny. So it was all about surviving back then.
Yeah.
I kind of needed my ego back then to keep me alive, in that sense. But then I needed to also understand that, hey, I'm on a spiritual journey here because I guess that's what I chose. And
Mm,
I need to learn how to now get out of the survival mode and
Mm.
get into the peace,
Yeah.
and that is not easy to do. It's very
agreed.
difficult to do, but it comes with a lot of, surrendering and just finding the neutrality in things instead of making them so important and
Yeah.
serious. And so my inner peace, it's a day at a time, that's for sure. But it's getting there a lot better than it used to. And it's
Yeah.
finding the beauty in it.
I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say, I like, Ellie, how you described that place of inner peace being that place of I'm not trying to control anything,
Yeah.
anything. Right, right. Not myself, not nothing internal, nothing external. Right. Yeah. What were you thinking?
No, when she said that it's in a space of complete unknown, and I got the spine tingles, which is my sign that, hey, yeah, that she's speaking truth here to me.
Mm,
Yeah.
nice.
And I'm getting it now as I reiterate it. It just is, it really speaks to me. And it makes me think of us traveling in Spain and wishing that when it got so stressful,
Uh-huh.
because we had no idea what we were doing driving, right?
Wow.
um, that would be, it was a good opportunity. I'm not sure that I took it appropriately at the time to,
That's for sure.
have that recognition.
Mhm,
So I'm curious when, you said surrender process or surrender several times.
mhm.
How do you find yourself in that space? What is it that tells you that it's time to surrender, and what's your process around that?
Yeah, so, because with all of the years of, just getting to know who I am by being on my own and going through that journey of self-healing and everything, I got to really be good at, observing, I would say, the patterns that are within me. And I think that right now is very trendy. People are, healing, their inner child and all of that. And so I've been doing that work for a long time, and I did not think that I would be on the other side of it in the sense where, so 2 years ago when I started that work in an intense way, I used to know that, but then there's a difference between knowing and really integrating.
Mm.
So
Well
I
said.
knew about it for a long time, but I
Mhm.
didn't
Yeah.
know how to go and really look at it and really integrate it. But like I said, sometimes life, and a lot of times life will bring you to your knees for you to kind of say, oh, okay, well, now I guess I don't have a choice to go and look at that because life is just, showing me that I have the opportunity.
Yeah.
So for me, surrendering has gone through a lot with my circumstances, feeling like my circumstances were getting too much of me in the sense where I was losing my power because of
Mm.
something that was outside of me. But it took, like I said, a while before I could get to that point where I wasn't, um, like there was level of surrendering, if I can say. The first level that I've gone through was the level that I went through when I was starting my healing journey, in the sense where I really made the choice to, do breath work and go and release some things and learn, like, do it on purpose, because you can release all you want. Sometimes it's in the middle of nowhere, you're going to release. But when you really make the choice to go and do that work, then you know that you're going into your darkness and you know it's going to hurt, and there is such a sense of surrendering there too, because you're surrendering again to something that you don't know about yourself. Like you don't know even patterns, that we
Yeah.
have so many patterns inside of our bodies, and some of them we don't even know they're there. And
Mhm.
also, what I've learned this year is that you are not ready for all of them to be healed until life decides that you're ready for them to heal. And it's insane because I discovered one this year and I was like, what the hell? Like this was inside of me. And how come I didn't see this when I chose to go and look at it, But I guess it's kind of like life is really well made. Only when you're ready to see something will you see it profoundly,
Yeah.
but only when you're ready. And
Yeah.
so I was
Mm.
ready, I guess, for a lot of things back then. at the level of consciousness, I guess, that I had.
Yeah.
But when you go deeper and then you practice and you really, just do the work on purpose, at one point you're ready for something else. And that means it's going to hurt even more because now you're even more sensitive to it. And you know what you're going to go through. So it's been a lot of layers like that. But yeah, the surrendering part to me, I know when I've gone to an alt with something that I feel that is outside of me, that it's a pattern, and now I can see it. So I've become the witness of it.
Yes.
When I see that it's a pattern and it's continuing and bringing back the familiar feeling, a lot of the time I'm like, okay, there is something here that I need to let go. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I'm ready. Just come on, let's just show me how, and we'll go through it, and then I'll heal as much as I can from it, and then I'll move on.
So and then you can show me some more, right?
Yeah. Then I guess I'll be ready for another level of awareness about something else that was hidden, and it's just insane. But what I've been feeling, what I found with all of this, and I don't know, maybe this is just my perspective, but I feel like I'm less attached to everything. So I'm less emotionally attached now to the things, the patterns that show up.
Yeah.
And so it's going to hurt a little less than what it used to, because now I'm not taking it as personal. I used to take it very personal because it's like, oh my God, why do I have these patterns inside of me that are so bad? And how come I'm seeing them just right now? And so I was harder on myself back then, right? But now it's kind of like, no, this is something that we need to do our entire lives. And I don't know if you guys know Michael Singer. But I love him so much.
Yeah, he's great.
And I remember him saying, like, the purpose of life is like not about gaining new things inside of you. It's about letting go of everything that's inside of you that needs to come out. That's all you have to do, is let it go. Let go, let go. So your entire life, you're just letting go of things, So I'm like, and I'm seeing it now as like, I just know that I'm always going to be letting go of something. Like something shows up. Oh, this is something to show me that I need to let go of something inside of me. It's always there. So it's kind of like, I'm used to it now. So because of that, I'm less emotional about it. And then I see that I know where to go to surrender a little bit more to whatever, but it's less of a big, intense kind of journey now, I feel. This is how I can describe it.
Yeah. It's interesting, Ellie. Several things that I think about, when you're sharing is really like reflecting back to you the fact that all of these things you're doing are a choice. Right.
Yeah.
Because you could have gone through what you've gone through and not made any of these choices. You could have stayed.
Exactly.
Yeah. You could have
stayed a victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I could have.
Yeah. And and it is, once you start choosing it, I don't think that the opportunity for choice never stops presenting itself. Right. And so
exactly. No.
Right.
No, it doesn't. And it feels like, and I don't want to be a victim in this because then it can sound like that, but it feels like when you know that you're going down that kind of path, it's like, okay, the universe is like, you went down there. I'm going to just throw things at you so that you can experiment all of them. And like, when you're done with that one, I'll throw you something else and let's go, let's do it. And it's like, okay, I just don't know. I feel like this, but it's like not in the victim way, but it's just like, when does it end? There's always something new.
I don't know that it ends. I mean, that's not my experience. 25 years in.
Too.
We're now 30 years in, almost 30 years in. Yeah, Ellie, but I hear you. I mean, how I imagine it is that whenever I release more story, there's more space for the next thing to go.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so for me, it's like, okay, I want that to go because I want more to go. And I don't ever feel like I'm losing my essence. I feel like I'm always just uncovering it more.
For sure.
Yeah.
Remembering who you really are at your essence, really, because all of the poop inside of us is just going out. so the light can come in a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so much story.
She touched on a lot of themes
She
that
did.
you discuss actually.
Yeah.
And it's in a little bit different way, but pretty darn close. The levels of consciousness. Teresa's talked a long time. I was just 27 layers of consciousness, and
it's
then
just
I say,
something
"Oh,
I
you
made
mean
up."
2,796?"
Right.
But
yeah, it's very difficult to define, right? To put a number on it for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The 27. Someone asked me one day during a class, and I was like, I don't know. Like, there's just so many. I'm like, how about we just go with 27? And so for me, the consciousness piece isn't like all the opportunities. The consciousness is at what level of awareness can I have about that particular thing, right? Because it's not, I mean, sometimes I will get an awareness and I'm like, what? I do that? Like, and it was so deep. It was buried so deep. But then other times it's like, oh, I do that. Dang it. And so I had some
Yeah.
level of awareness around it, right? But it wasn't high enough that I could like grab a hold of it, look at it, and be like,
curiosity.
oh, yeah. And so,
Yeah.
so when I say 27 layers, that's what I'm talking about. Like, at what level of awareness do we have to be able to grab hold of it and examine it? Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like, because I like to refer to people that I follow, that I've been following for a long time, that helped me through my journey. But remember Michael Beckwith? Michael
Oh,
Beckwith.
yeah.
Okay. So Michael Beckwith said something about consciousness, and that stuck to me. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. So I guess I would want to share it as much as best as I can remember.
That's great.
I'm not going to paraphrase it really nicely, because like I don't know it by heart, but there was something that he was saying, and it stuck to me. Anyways, that the essence of it, or the feeling of it, kind of stuck to me, where he spoke about kind of like 4 levels of consciousness, or was it levels of consciousness? Anyway, he was talking about those 4 kind of themes, where he was saying, we start with the victim mentality. This is the first consciousness, where everything happens to us. And then you got the second level of consciousness, where you understand that everything happens for us. And then he went to the third one, that was like everything is happening through us. And then the fourth one, which is the one that is the highest in the sense, is everything is happening by us. So I hope that I have this right, but it's something in that sense, where that where we get with the reality that's unfolding in front of us. How are we perceiving the reality that's unfolding in front of us, and the people and everything, right? So and I really love that, because I could kind of gauge myself in the situations and the circumstances that I was going through in my life with those 4 things. Like, how am I seeing this, and how do I want to see this? Because it's not everything, that is everything, yes, is a lesson in a way, but sometimes there are things I feel like I like that part in the third, I would say, level, where everything happens through us. At one point, things happen through us, when we can allow things to come through us. So it's not because it's not everything that we're going to let come through us. It depends on the level of awareness that we are with the thing that we're experimenting in that moment. But that was really cool, because I mean, when you think about it, if you're letting something come through you, then you're kind of like projecting that out to the world. And obviously, if you're at that level of awareness, it's probably not going to be something that's negative, that you're going to allow to come through you to now, express to the world. So it was a really cool way of seeing it. And because I read, the book that I wrote, I feel like that's what happened with my book. I let everything that I was while I was writing, everything was coming through me. from that. And it's a hell of a beautiful experience. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us more about your process that you put in your book? How you get yourself in that space where you're allowing this to come through you.
Yeah. So, well, before I decided to, actually, I'm not even going to say I decided. I didn't decide anything. Seriously, I didn't even know I was going to write a second book. I wrote a first book when I was 27, and I thought it was this. That's it. It was a book that I wrote. I was happy about it, and then back then, I just wanted to write a book. I guess it was my dream. My ego
Sure.
dream was to I'm good at writing, so I'm going to write a book and we'll see what happens. And that it happened. And then I didn't really do anything with it because I got separated and I had something to deal with that I didn't have any energy to put in my book. So I didn't believe that I was going to write a second book because I thought it was it. It's like, okay, I did it. I don't have to do another one. Although I've always continued to write. I've been writing and writing and writing every single day and journaling. But yeah, at one point I was sitting down in meditation, and it was really at a point, it was last year in December, where I just had no idea where my life was going because my business that I've had for the last 6 years that I built from survival mode because I got separated, which was a Airbnb management business. I did that that's how I started it. I did it with my own home because I had 2 bedroom and I needed to pay my mortgage. So
Sure.
that's how my business started. But it was falling away, like it was really dying. And I needed to accept that because I knew that I was going into the unknown to get out of survival mode. So that entire 2023 year was like life just throwing things at me to tell me, yeah, that's not going to work because you're out of survival mode. I'm trying to show you that you cannot continue to live your life in survival mode. So this avenue is not for you anymore. So that was the level of surrendering that I needed to go through. So I was very much into transition and I really did not know. Like, I was like, I don't even know what I want to do with my life. Like, I've been doing this business for the last 6 years. That's all I know. That's all what I'm good at. I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 21. So I was like, I don't know what to do. And so, feelings of failure, feelings of just being alone in all of this and not having the support that I wish that I would want. All I had was my writing. So I sat down and in meditation because I had dedicated myself, okay, I need to get back into like deep, deep, deep meditations, like silent meditations. And I sat down and I thought I was going to do that for the next week and the 2 weeks in the holidays. And so without any expectation of anything, right? It was like, I just want to meditate and be with myself. I don't need to have answers, whatever. I just want to shut off this mind. And I sat down and I had the clear message. It was the first time actually that it happened so clearly to me, where I heard, you've got a second book to write, and this is the title, and this is the way that you're going to write it. What the hell? Like, what is this? I was not expecting that at all. And so, like I said, it's not a decision at that point. It wasn't a decision. It was just something that I received. And I would have been stupid to not follow it because I had so much time. Like, I was in that period where I wasn't doing much because I didn't know what I was doing. So that was a process where that was the first way of receiving that book. And then I said, I don't know how I'm going to write this. And I sat down and I started just to kind of like, I knew it was letters because it was very clear that they wanted me to, me, my higher self, wanted me to write instead of chapters, it would be letters. And so I'm like, well, different. I would have never thought about that. Let's do it. Let's try it, And I started just to kind of like, write the first letter. And I'm like, what do I want to talk about in the first letter? And then it was kind of like, well, I guess I have a lot of time. And then I'm like, oh, let's talk about time. So I wrote time and I just let it, really just unfold. And I was present with I guess my higher self and received everything. And it just flowed really, really nicely. And it's hard to describe in a sense where the process, it took me a month to write everything. And it was pretty fast, but I mean, I did have a lot of time to do it as well, but it was effortless for me to receive all of this. And I also knew that it was not all of my ideas, in a sense, my small self, and my opinion wasn't too much involved, because I
Right.
saw, as I was reading the letters, I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure I can say that." And then I'm like, "Oh, but it's not me, so I guess I can be that direct."
Freedom.
Freedom, exactly. So I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, this is a really nice way of being really, really authentic,
Mm.
and doing it for the purpose of helping people and not getting in the way, not letting my
Mhm.
ego get in the way of like thinking like, oh no, what happens if I write this and then someone judges me because of the way that I said it, or my belief system or whatever." I'm like, nope, nope, I'm not the one writing. This is how I felt it. And like, I know
Right.
it's not my ego self writing this book. So
Yeah.
I know that it's also going to be written in a way where people are going to be receiving it in a soothing way. But
Mhm.
it kind of didn't matter at that point, where I was like, it doesn't matter how people are going to receive this. If someone is ready to receive this message in the way that I wrote it, it's because they are ready and they're going to
Yeah.
receive it. And
Mhm.
it's been quite an amazing journey just writing that book. I love the entire experience, and it made me
Mm.
bald. Like, I would reread my letters and I was like bawling. I'm like, wow, if this is making me feel like that, it's going to
Yeah.
make other people feel like that, and there's going to be releases in this. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It is nice. Ellie, to, give people some perspective of who you were before you started making all these choices in your life. How do you feel like you would have described yourself 10 years ago? And how do you think those close to you would have described you 10 years ago?
Mhm. That's a good question. Um, I thought 10 years ago that I was confident,
Mm,
and looking back today, I wasn't confident at all.
mm, mm.
Um, it was the ego that was confident. I think
Okay.
I needed to be very much into my ego to protect myself, because
Mm,
my childhood was it was mostly, and it's only this year that I discovered this, but my school years really destroyed my self-esteem.
mm.
Actually, I never developed a self-esteem with my school years since I
Okay.
was really small. So I didn't think that I was intelligent.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, I know that 10 years ago, I didn't believe that I was intelligent. I didn't
Wow.
think that I was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that people kind of perceive me, that's hard to know. I guess I would never be able to know, because you can never know what someone thinks about you. Truly, you can only assume, right? But
Unless they tell you.
unless they tell you, yeah. So to be really, really honest with you, it's hard for me to put an answer to how people were perceiving me. I think that they perceive me, of course, as, I was a kind person, and easy to get along with, easygoing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was kind of a people pleaser back then as well, because I wanted
Okay.
always to
Okay.
be, to have approval from everyone. So probably people thought that I was very easy to just get along with, and but other than that, like at a deeper level, yeah, it's hard for me to say.
No,
Really
that's
hard for
good.
me
It's
to say.
helpful. It's helpful. When you mentioned, like your school days, the impact that that had on you, what are you aware of now about the impact it had on you?
God, it was a big, big, big surprise to me this year. And it's insane. I didn't know how much of an impact that it made on my entire life
Mhm.
until this year. I was ready just this year to see this. But I was always failing in a lot of things in school, or at least that's what they said, that I was
Right.
failing, because the way that the system works is that if you don't have high grades, then you're failing, right? You're kind of measured in that way.
Right.
So I was the kid that had difficulties at school, that was too slow, that was always failing or close to failing all of my classes, but all of my tests and all of my exams, I would not finish in time. So I had a difficult time learning, And I also understand today why I had a difficult time learning, because I'm very, very much, I need to be stimulated.
Yeah.
And I feel like I wasn't with the teachers, with the way that the system was, configured and everything. It was way too generalized for me. I was an artist. I was
Yeah.
a singer so I excelled in that. But in school, it was difficult because I also was not interested. This is what I know now. I don't think that I was that interested in that much in learning because I wasn't stimulated enough. I wasn't
Sure.
inspired.
Sure.
Teachers were not inspiring me. Nothing was inspiring me. If I would have had a great, history teacher, let's say, that would be like super excited about teaching his class, I think I would have been amazing in my class. That I know now. But also, the other reason why I was failing everything is because I was being reinforced by everybody telling me that I was failing, telling me that I was too slow. I was comparing myself with other students that were having these high grades, that were probably going to college or university, and I wasn't going there, and I knew it because I really thought that I was not intelligent enough. And so what that did to me, looking back now and only realizing this year, because
Yeah.
again, with my new career, with the book and my whatever, I'm transitioning, so I'm going into something new, something unknown. There's a lot of fear in that. And the fear that is there is like, oh my God, I don't want to fail. I'm
Yeah.
afraid to go full in because I'm afraid of I'm gonna be a failure again. And then I really had to see, why is this pain still there? Why do I still feel like I'm going to fail at something, like I'm not achieving, I'm not doing enough? And it's not because I'm not intelligent or I'm not smart. Like today, I know that that's not the case. So I was like, what is blocking me so much?
Yeah.
And at one point, I was sitting down and I remember in my car and I started crying. And so I have to do breath work. I have something to release. I don't know what it is, but I have to do a breath work because I was looking at the surface of what was going on in my life, right?
Sure. Sure.
And so I sat down and I started to breathe, and it was clear my inner child was still hurting, believing that I was not doing anything right.
Yeah.
I wasn't good enough, and I was
Yeah.
wrong. I
Right.
was wrong because that child was not comforted to say, you know what? It's not you that's wrong.
Right.
It's the system. So, and I do believe that if I would have had that clarity, or at least my parents would have had kind of like that clarity, they would have known to kind of maybe tell me that I am smart. It's not that I'm not smart. It's just the way that the system is brought up that it
Yeah.
doesn't work for me. And
Right.
also, like, maybe the teachers didn't work for me. The way that the teachers were kind of like not, sometimes like I would have questions and I would be dismissed really quickly because I wasn't as smart as the other kids, and they feel like they were like I was annoying them, you know?
Yeah.
So all of that made it so that I was like, oh my God, this is still a very big wound that I need to go and heal, and like really deeply. But then I could really see it and have a lot of compassion for that little girl and hold that little girl in that moment and say, oh my God, you are no, you are not fitting in the system. This is how I feel I should have been told. Like, you can't fit in the system because you're not the one who's wrong. The system is wrong, making people think that all children can learn the same way, that everything is generalized. Like, it makes no sense. We are so unique. And I can
Right.
imagine how many other kids are feeling this pain and still feeling that pain today because
A
they were
lot.
never understood. They were put in
Absolutely.
classes, and I wasn't put in a class in special needs class, but I could have. You never know. I had a teacher as a mom, so I'm pretty sure my mom had too much pride to put me in a class, special needs class. That I know.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of other kids that have made, like Preston Smiles. I don't know if you know who that is, but he is super successful today, and he's in this industry and spirituality and everything. And he was put in a special needs class, and he is like
Right.
super well off. And he understood that, that was, again, it was the system that was made. Oh, this is you have a hard time learning this, then oh, there's something wrong with you. We need to put you there, or you need to have more tutoring or whatever. And all of these things were kind of like very damaging, for children. So, yeah, that was a very big revelation for me this year, because I I had that very hidden from me until now. And I used to say my childhood was, that my wounds were mostly around my family. But then I'm like, oh my God, my
Mm.
wounds were mostly around school.
Mm.
That
Yeah.
I see now. Like, I'm like, oh my God, that was my biggest trauma, was school.
Yeah.
I've had nightmares of going back to school. I don't know how many
Mm.
times, like years later, I thought I didn't graduate high school. My
Yeah.
my dreams were that way. So
Mhm.
there
Mm.
there there was something that was telling me something, but I
Right.
wasn't able to receive it yet. And
Mm.
now it's like I know that I have the strength and I'm the resilience to see it that way, and to not be hard on myself, and know the truth as well.
Yeah.
And just and yeah, and not blame. I don't want to blame the teachers or whatever, but I can say that the truth is pretty evident as to, and it still shows right now in the system as today. So and again, it's not about being frustrated about anything, but it's still very revealing to me as to, wow, that happened because of that. You know,
Mm.
I hopefully sometime at one point that system will change and help
Yeah.
a lot more kids.
Yeah. I hear you, Ellie. I have
Mhm.
4 children, and um, they've all found their way through the system. I would say for sure my oldest son, I would say, has a story very similar to yours.
Mm.
I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, he can speak, read, and write Chinese. He can hear
Oh
the
wow.
tone, he can hear the tonal difference. I mean, he's really exceptional at so many things, but school was so difficult for him.
Mm. Yeah.
And he often felt like a failure. Um, and, as my oldest child, learning, I learned so much from him.
Yeah.
And I remember, gosh, I mean, he was 17 then, so 12 years ago. I remember I was sitting at the kitchen table, and I was watching something on, Facebook, and it was a video, like a song, maybe like a rap song, of a bunch of students in Europe, I think. And they were like spread around these like huge steps to like a museum or something. And they all had hoodies on, and all the hoods were up. And so you couldn't see them. And basically they were, talking about, the fact that they were only identified by their grades in school, like who they were as an individual, like
Yeah.
had no, meaning. And
Yeah.
so, I asked
Hmm.
him to, come over. Who make me emotional, but I remember him. I just said, I want you to watch this. And he's really tall. And he was standing above me, and he was like, resting on my head, as he was watching. And he watched it, and I just said, do you feel that way? And he said, every single day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that day, my role as a parent around schooling changed.
Mm.
Absolutely
Wow.
changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just said, I don't want that for you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I perpetuated this story. I don't want
Mhm.
that for you. I want you
Yeah.
to find your way. And he still is, finding his way, but believing in himself,
Yeah.
understanding, how smart he is and the gifts that he has.
Mhm.
And, that just didn't, he didn't fit in the system.
Yeah. And
I
that's
felt,
perfect.
yeah, yeah. I
Mm.
felt helpless to know how to be helpful, to him. I didn't know what the other options were. And I even stopped, like, because a lot of school systems went to like online grade, like portals, where parents can go watch, see
Mm.
things. And so, of course, when they started in our school system, I, signed up. And then I realized all it did was make me grouchy at my kids. And so I just stopped looking. I was
Mm,
just like, they have choice, in how they
yeah.
do this. And this is not helping my relationship with them. It's not helping
Yeah.
them. And I remember when I went to the school, like at the beginning of the next year, and they were like switching from like elementary school to middle school. And they were like, well, you have to sign up. And I said, oh, I don't ever look at that. And they were like, what? And I was like, never. That online portal is actually not helpful for me in
Mm,
regards to supporting my children and knowing who they are. It's
yeah,
not helpful. So
absolutely.
I just don't look.
And so
Yeah.
the system labels you bad parent, right? Because
Right?
I'm not doing that.
Right.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
You're not
exactly.
And
doing
it's
it. They're
funny
not
in
doing
a
it.
I can't
That's
believe
it.
it happens that way kind of a way. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
But
unfortunately because it's been happening for a long time and it's still happening today. And even those the kids that do have high grades, I mean, they identify with that too.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And
Absolutely.
if they fail just a little bit, if they're
Right.
under whatever grade they are,
Right.
they get anxiety and like
Yeah.
because I mean, there's the both levels are not healthy,
Right.
right? And then you get I remember I would be sad because I would never get the chance to have stars.
Mhm.
They give the stars.
oh
Oh,
The
right.
good
The gold
kids,
stars,
yeah.
the gold
silver
stars. And I would never get those. And so how did that make me feel even more? It's like
Right.
I'm not allowed to receive love because that's what it
Right.
is, right? I'm not
Right.
allowed to receive love because I'm not like I have a difficult time learning whatever the subject is.
Right.
So
Mhm.
it's kind of in the deepest sense, I felt unloved in
Right.
schools.
Yeah. You're always disappointing someone. Right.
Yes, you're
Right.
always doing something wrong. You're
Always.
never getting anything right. So it's kind of like, of course, growing up, if you don't go and heal that, but you don't
Mm.
get told, you don't get, no one tells you that you need to go and fix that because you don't know, and they don't know.
Yeah.
So I figured that
Yeah.
out all on my own, which is fine because I guess I had the resilience to do it. But there's so many other people out there that don't have that awareness, that don't know that to
Absolutely.
do that, that they could go and parent themselves and
Mhm.
love that little kid, So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but it's very damaging to the entire society when you think about it, because we want to we want to raise kids to be who they are and to not be identified with anything other than who they are, and we put
Right.
them in boxes like that and say like, well, if you don't do that right, then you're less than the other one who's doing it better than you. And again, it's just a perspective, because who wrote all of this system anyways? Like, could we have another opinion? Or there's no end to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that for everything. But yeah,
No, it's
it's something.
interesting. Ellie, even just this conversation is just making me think, as a mental health professional, obviously I get exposed to all different types of family systems, right? And
Mm,
so even what I'm thinking right now as we're talking is even the amount of competition that is created amongst siblings, because each
yes.
sibling, right, learns different, experiences life
Mhm.
different processes, different whatever.
Yeah.
And often there's so much competition amongst performance, in grades or sports, right? Being
Yeah.
held to these standards, outside of themselves. And just how
Yeah.
damaging that competition, often turns into. I'm not saying always. I mean, I think, some people learn how to do it kindly. But for a lot of systems, that competition among siblings never stops,
Yeah.
ever. I mean,
It's
they're
true.
50 and 60 and 70 years old, and they're still giving each other shit about
Uh,
missing the catch at the football game or the F they got in biology class or, you
yeah.
know, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't stop, and it's unfortunate because that's it. Like, it is. You're a family. You shouldn't be in competition with anything. Everybody should be supporting them, like everyone, But
Yeah.
yeah, it really does have to do with this, with the system, and the society is just built on those systems. So everybody follows them and they don't question it. And it's kind of what I hope that a lot of us right now, as people are going deep into their spirituality, are um, kind of putting that awareness out. out there, and just making people think a little bit more about, like, it's not because society follows the things like that, and that's for everything, whether it's healthcare, whatever, that you're not allowed to question things
Yeah.
now. And it's a really good time now to see that things need to start being questioned, and
Yeah.
even in a bigger impact, because so much chaos is going outside in the world. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's like I feel like the world is in chaos because it's telling us, like, hey, you do have choice. You're
Yeah.
allowed to question how you've been living your life and how you want to continue to live it for the rest of your life. Come on.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
an individual soul, and you're extraordinary. You don't need to just rely on the exterior or what people
Right.
tell you, or these people are living their lives. And then again, competition between friends and whatever, because
Right.
anyway, it doesn't stop. We could talk about that for a long time.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah.
No, I agree. And what it takes me back to is the very beginning of our time today, where it is so difficult for us to be in that space of the unknown.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
And, if we could experience life really as this constant experiment, and that evolution of ideas and thoughts and learning was just part of all of our lives, right? Not just, segregated to a certain group of people who get to keep exploring, right? Like we are
Yep.
all
Everybody.
explorers, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh
I mean,
yeah. Yeah.
it'd be we'd live in a different world for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's if everybody knew that they had that freedom,
Yeah.
and it is a freedom to have choice, to have
Mhm.
your way of wanting to see your life, what feels good to you. But then you have to make the choice as well as to, okay, I got to get to know who I am without all of that outside of me, and that's a big choice to make. And
Yeah.
it's scary for a lot of people because, again, they've been relying so much. It's kind of like that they how can you get the kind of like when I got separated, I was very, very, very scared because I was like, oh my God, that's all I know. This
Right.
relationship with this man, which was, I wasn't even in love with him anymore, but it just so happened that life said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take it out.
Yeah.
and, and it got me out of my comfort zone. But I mean, like, if I would have stayed in that relationship, I would have not known the power that I am. I would have
Right.
still think that I was a failure, that I was not
Mm.
smart, that I was not
Mhm.
intelligent,
Mm.
because I was living into that kind of like I wasn't questioning it enough
Yeah.
because I
Just
didn't
playing
have
the
the
role.
freedom
Mhm.
to question it.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything that was big enough of an impact for me to question that because I was comfortable. And that's why we talk about the unknown. Very uncomfortable going into
Very.
the unknown.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you get over the fear of going into the unknown and you let yourself go through it, man, you evolve like crazy. It
Yeah.
will hurt. Of
Oh,
course
yeah.
it will hurt because everything
Yeah.
that's uncomfortable hurts. But
Yes.
then the peace gets installed after a while, and
Mm.
the more that you do it, well, the quicker that you're gonna have that peace come
Yeah.
into and install inside of you. And it's just more
Mm.
every day and every day, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I used to think, when I started this work, I would say, well, I hope there's freedom on the other side, and then now it's like, now I know there is, like, no
Yeah.
doubt, like
Yeah.
all of this, it is absolutely worth it. I mean, if
Mhm.
I wouldn't go back to those
No, you
parts
you
of,
couldn't. That's
no,
the
no,
thing.
you're right. I couldn't. It's not even
You couldn't.
possible. Right.
I don't think so. I remember sometimes being in a jam, that's how I'm gonna call it,
Mhm.
and being like, "Why? Why did I choose this path? Like, it hurts. Like, bring me back to the easy kind of comfort zone." And then I'm like, "Oh, but no." But then you know too much, and you just can't. You can't be in ignorance anymore.
Right.
But yeah,
No,
and
I
I get
hear
it.
that. I hear
Yeah.
that. What
Yeah,
do
and
you
I
think?
think that oh,
Go
yeah, and
ahead.
you can go ahead, but I think that the freedom, this is what I've discovered about myself.
Yeah.
Um, the freedom is when you can just catch yourself in a pattern.
Yeah.
Like that to me is freedom enough to be
Yeah.
able to say, whoop,
Yeah.
where is this coming from? This is my ego or higher self because it doesn't feel really good. So it must be a pattern that I need to go look at right now and not react to whatever's going outside. Just that agility, that mind agility to be able to be the witness of myself in every moment.
Yeah.
That to me is freedom. Like I can't and I don't think that it can be, more and not more than that in the sense where I can't expand a lot more, but it is so simple when you think of it. Like we see freedom sometimes as this big thing of like being relieved of everything and just being like, oh my God, I have nothing else to worry about in my life, But no, actually, I feel like that for me, the freedom is just to be able to look at myself and know that comes where it comes from. Where is the energy coming from? And that's to me that is freedom enough. And if I can keep on doing that all of my life, then I'm always free,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For me, setting an intention that the universe, reminding myself, setting an intention and reminding myself, and setting an intention and reminding myself that the universe has my highest good in mind in those situations is helpful. And the other part about what you've said, Ellie, is that recognition when you get to a space that when you were ready to do the breath work and have that recognition of what had happened to you through the schooling process. It's like being in a space where you can hold that and the low is not so low and it doesn't last as long as it used to. And I think we move along this progression.
Yeah.
And I've thought in that process for me, sometimes I've had this fear, like when I listen to Michael Singer or those sorts of things, it's like non-attachment. Does that mean that I will no longer have passion for life and I'm not going to feel as deeply? And I don't think that's what it is.
Yeah.
No.
I think it's a whole different level of understanding and recognition of the beauty of the whole thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's funny that you talk about that because I've been looking at that lately and I'm like, I'm getting it now where it's like, joy, inner peace is not what we feel when we have this ideal from our ego of what is joy. I think that there's a lot of excitement that comes with joy, right? And also the excitement is on a high. This is how the ego sees it. If you're excited, that means that you're happy and you're on a high and things are good. But I feel that the inner peace is actually what is the most high for me. And it does not come with necessarily with a exciting high. It's just like really, yes. And the detachment comes from there too. Like, and I agree with you. It's like, oh my God, but if I detach myself so much, then after a while, like, am I going to feel like I don't know, I don't care anymore? And I realize like, no, actually, like I am just appreciating so much more when I detach because I know that it's not going to be there forever. Right. And I'm not creating these feelings of anxiety by holding on so much to them because we feel sometimes like if we're, if we're not attached, then it means that we're not really in love with whatever or with a person. And it's again, it's unfortunate, but it's a lie. It's like the more that you know how to integrate detachment and you can understand it, then the more that you're at, again, it comes back to peace, I believe, where it's kind of this it's a very subtle feeling and a very it's very hard to describe, to be honest with words, but I've been really seeing it as space and as allowing, things to be the way they are and not making anything too big and too and more powerful than who I am. Because I feel like when you're attached to things is because you're afraid of losing something that is within you. But really what's happening is you're giving your power so much to that thing or that person with attachment. And when you detach, you're keeping your power. And by keeping that power, of course, you're going to keep your passion. of feeling alive and enjoying life in a very different kind of perspective. You know, it's completely different from living your life from the ego's perspective with the excitement and the highs. And but there's simplicity in there that's just amazing. You know, I especially like lately, just a quick story. I have one of my friends that was freaking out about his finances. And I know about his finances, and I've been through, you know, really, really low finances.
Yeah.
And when he was freaking out about his finances and really, really being stressed about this situation, I was seeing my freedom right there. So I was able to look at him with my eyes of, oh my God, I am so free. I am so free. Because I know that in this situation, because of where I've been in my life and the resilience that I've built through going through so low finances and being on my own as well and trying to figure out like what's going to happen and going into that surrendering mode and the unknown and all of that. Through my eyes, when I was looking at that situation and seeing how his finances were really not that bad, really okay, really like, I was like, wow. Have I ever grown in this department? Because I know that I would not even be close to be freaking out in his situation because of the way that I now see how I keep my power and money and whatever is not more important than my worth and who I am. So I'm not letting that control me and being in worry and whatever, right? But it's really amazing when you get to that point, because now you're like, oh my God, like you realize how much freedom that you've created inside of yourself by other people's situation or whatever, instead of judging him and being like, why is he freaking out? And it's like, no, I was seeing me and just being very grateful about how I would be perceiving that if I was in his shoes because of all the work that I've done. You know? So, and again, that's the inner peace. So there's a great joy in that, but there's freedom that like big time. So yeah, I this is how I see it.
And gratitude. Yeah. Well, Ellie, the time always goes by so fast. What would you like to share about, you know, the name of your book and a little bit about it and where people can find it, and then anything else that you would like to share with them before we finish up today?
Sure. So yes, the book that I have that I written was back in December, and it's been out since August 6th, and it's everywhere on Amazon. So people can find it there. It's called Letters from You to You. And if people want to know a little bit more about it, there is a sample. There's a free sample on my website. There's also one on Amazon, but I put one on my website as well, so I could give you the information. But it's lettersbyellie.com. This is my website, so you can go and check the book out there. But really, it's a book to kind of like a guide. You can read it in different ways. I've got people that read it. They can read like one letter a day, and then they reflect on the letter the entire day, and they can choose like a random letter throughout their whatever. Like they can choose number 20 or they can choose number 8, and then they kind of see it as, oh, I chose that today because I know I have to work on that. You know, so it's a way of seeing it too. You can read the entire book, like from the first letter to the letter 21 too, if you want, because it follows everything. But what I'm hoping that this can bring to people is, again, a sense of inner peace. This is what I feel that this book is kind of bringing. There are truths in there that I think that everybody can relate to. It's a very direct approach. It's as if your higher self is speaking directly to you through all of those letters. So it's a very unique way of reading. And the message is very clear in the sense where, I mean, there's a lot of chaos right now in the world, as we know. And I don't think that it's going to change anytime soon, unfortunately, for the next couple of years. But I do believe that people are awakening more and more. But what people need to realize that as quickly as they can is that, yes, they do have a choice of choosing their reality. And it starts by, I believe, going inside of them and creating an inner world that is very,
Yeah.
that has a
Mm.
beautiful foundation.
Yeah.
And that is not easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of darkness inside of all of us. And I think that people just have to know that they have to have enough courage to say, I know I've got a lot. I need to go heal. I'm ready now. And I'm going to go and fix myself before I can see the world outside of myself to change. Because I
Yeah.
think that if no one does that work ever, well, how can we expect things to ever change outside of ourselves? Because no one
Right.
has self-compassion. So everybody is just trying to win all the time and be powerful with their ego and just being in competition, like we said before. So it just never ends. It's a cycle, right? So
Right.
that would be my message to people. And it's all in the book as well, in that sense, where just go in. Stop focusing so much on the outside world and all the news and all the chaos. There's nothing that you can do about that. But there's a lot that you can do about who you are and the way that you react to everything that's outside of yourself,
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ellie.
Yeah. Appreciate
Yeah.
your
Thank
time
you.
this morning and your sharing. And it's always inspiring and encouraging to hear people's stories, especially people, younger than us. This work was, often reserved for people that were older
Yeah.
and for whatever reason. But
Again,
um,
another
but
way of limiting conception.
right, right. Um, yeah, and I think we've done a really good job culturally, and I mean that sarcastically, of teaching people to not pay attention to themselves. So I
Mm,
love the work that I do. I love,
yeah.
seeing people that are younger really step in and start, doing the work to find their essence beyond their story and their roles.
Mhm.
It's very exciting. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
all
Thank
the
you.
choices that you're making.
Yep. And all
Thank
the
you.
gifts that you're giving the world. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Thank
It-
you. I appreciate it. And I really appreciate people like you that are giving us the platform like this to just, express who we are. That's all we're doing, really, right? It's always about
Absolutely.
just being the most authentic that I can be and hope that that's enough.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Have a lovely day.
You too.
Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to explore life with you. We encourage curiosity, self-growth, and we strive to be more compassionate every day.